Hello. I wanted to go over Unit 1, Lesson 1 with you. Yesterday you did a Nearpod presentation and answered a couple of questions, so I just wanted to go through here and kind of talk about some things to make sure you understand it. So these were our goals. Our goals were to collect data and explore statistical questioning, tell the difference between a statistical and a non-statistical question, and also the difference between numerical and categorical data. So you were asked a question to figure out which one of these does not belong. So in questions like this, when we have a warm-up, there are multiple correct answers. I'm not always looking for a specific right answer. I'm looking to see if you can explain your reasoning. So all of these questions that you looked at yesterday don't fit for one reason or another. So you saw this slide yesterday. But let's talk about these questions. So question A said, how many potato chips are in this bag of chips? So if I'm holding a specific bag of chips, I'm only going to get one answer. I can dump the bag of chips out, count them, and everyone should count the same number of chips. If there's 15 chips in the bag, the answer would be 15. So this question, there's only one right answer, and it is numerical. Okay, so it is not a statistical question. Looking at question B, what is the typical number of chips in a bag of chips? So this question, if every person in the classroom had their own bag of chips and counted how many chips were in that bag, we would not have the same number in every bag. So we would collect that data, okay? So question B is a statistical question, and it requires numerical data. Everyone would answer with a number. So we would also collect this data to find out what the average was, and we'll get to that later on in the unit. Looking at question C, what type of chips are these? So if I'm holding a specific bag of chips, again, if I tell you they're Doritos, well, this bag of chips is obviously Doritos. So this is not a statistical question, and it would require categorical data. So categorical data is an answer that you give as a word, so it's not a number. But there is only one right answer to this question as well. All right, and the last one, D, doesn't fit in with the others. So it says, what type of chips do students in this class prefer? So we're talking about a specific class. So it is a statistical question because we're going to collect data to answer it. Because we have to ask every person in the classroom, what type of chips do you like? Okay, so it is categorical because they're going to respond with a word, an answer that is a word. All right. Okay, so these are the 4 sets of questions that we're going to look at. So we're going to break down each one. So we're just going to look at questions 1, 2, and 3. So I want you to pause the video for a second and take some time to see if you can tell what's going on in all of the question 1s for sets A, B, and C, and D, or all of the question 2s for each set, or all of the question 3s. So pause the video and take a look at that for a second. All right, so if we're looking at question 1, you'll notice that all of these questions are going to be given an answer that is a number. So the answers that you get are going to be numbers. All right. If you're looking at number 2, all of these questions will be answered with a word or a characteristic. So the month you were born, or snow day, or field trip, they're all going to be words. The questions number 3, you're also going to answer with a word, but they are slightly different than the questions from number 2. Number 3's questions all have one specific answer that is going to be correct. So if we're looking at these questions in number 1, if we're getting numbers as answers, we would call this numerical data, okay? For the answers that are words, we would call that categorical data. And number 3 is also categorical data, but these are non-statistical questions because there will be no variability in the responses. The answers should all be the same. Okay. And so if we're looking number 1 and number 2, these types of questions are going to be statistical. They require you to ask a second question in order to collect that data. So if you look at number 1, on average, how many letters are in the family last name for students in this class? That is a statistical question that will give us numerical data, and a survey question for that would be, how many letters are in your last name? That's the question we would walk around and ask everyone to collect data for. Or set C, how long did it take students in this class to get to school this morning? We would ask each person, how long did it take you to get to school? Okay. For set A, B, C, and D for number 2, we would ask a survey question that would help us get the categorical data that we wanted. So which month has the most birthdays from the class? We would ask, what month were you born? Or for number 2, would the class rather have a snow day or a field trip? Would you rather have a snow day or a field trip? So your survey question is more specific to the person that you are asking. All right, so again, I want you to read these questions and I want you to take a minute and kind of think about what you would say to answer these questions. So just pause the video for a second and think about those. All right, hopefully you had some time to answer those and you read them and thought about them seriously. So what makes a question statistical? So we can say that a question is statistical if there is variability in the data that is being collected. So that means that your answers that you get from people are all going to be different. So if we asked what month you were born in, chances are we're going to have a lot of different responses. Everyone in the class is not going to be born in June. We're going to get 12 possible different answers. So there is variability in the question or the data that is collected. All right. What is an example of a non-statistical question? So a non-statistical question is anything that there is only one specific answer to. So what value of x makes the equation x plus 5 equals 7 true? There's only one number that makes that true. It's 2. 2 plus 5 equals 7. What is an example of a statistical question that we have not used in class or that you didn't look at on the Nearpod? So on average, how many people eat breakfast every day? So this is a statistical question because we're trying to find an average and we have to ask people a different question and collect data in order to answer this question. What type of data is collected to answer the statistical question, would the class rather have pizza or donuts? So if we're asking students this question, we're going to get either pizza or donuts as our answer, so that would be categorical data. What is an example of a statistical question that results in numerical data? So we need a question that will give us a number as the response. So what is the typical surface area of styrofoam pellets? So if we ask this question, we would have to measure the area of a styrofoam pellet, and our answer would be a number. What are some different ways to represent data graphically? So on your Unit 1 readiness check, you encountered some of these. So we can use bar graphs, dot plots, box plots, pie charts, and histograms to look at data. All right, so that is kind of our summary about statistical and non-statistical questions, numerical and categorical data. Here are some vocabulary for you to look at, and I'll send you this slide as well so that you can look at it. So categorical data, remember it is just data where the values are categories, where we're giving words. So 10 different dogs are categorical data, or colors, red, green, yellow, blue, okay? Non-statistical questions are questions that are answered with a specific number. So they have no variability. So how high is that building? Well, it's a specific height. Its height never changes. So everyone's going to answer the same. Or if I run at 2 meters per second, how long will it take me to run 100 meters? It's a simple problem there where we're only gonna get one answer here. Or how tall are you? Well, at this given point, you're only going to be a specific height. Numerical data is the data that you get from getting numbers. So how much dogs weigh, or how many chairs are in a classroom, things like that. Anything that gives you a number is numerical data. And statistical questions are questions that we have to collect data in order to find the answer to. So, who is the most popular musical artist at your school is a statistical question, because we would have to collect data. We would have to ask all of our classmates, who is your favorite musical artist? Or when do students in your class typically eat dinner? We would have to collect data and ask everyone, what time do you eat dinner? And then we could compare the results and see what the typical time was. All right, so I hope those things help you out. If you still have questions or you want to clarify anything, feel free to email me. So this is the end of what I wanted to discuss with you today. So just go back to Google Classroom and do the cool down and work on the practice problems. Thanks. Have a great day.